So what Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 13th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting. I am the chair. My members are Mr. Dean Holland, Mrs. Amy May, and my alternate is Mrs. Cheryl Ramos, who has been excused for this evening. I have one item to try to get on the agenda for the night, and the other item just needs to be discussed for council to understand what the auditor is going to need. The first item is ordinance 27, 2023. It's an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia amending and adjusting the permanent appropriations ordinance for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency. She has also asked if we could suspend the rules and pass on first reading. And what it says here is the police department for uniform accessories, $30,000. Courts, office supplies, $16,250. And PF, police fire, K-9 maintenance, $4,000. There's just a typo area in there, so we just need to correct it. Under the courts supplies, it's $16,250, but he has a slash instead of a decimal point for a dollar sign. Cents. And the income tax refunds of $40,000. And the fire department escrow distribution, $39,333. With that, Beth, is there anything you need to add before I have council ask questions?
Well, for the police, the uniform accessories, they're getting a grant for body cams, but they need to have that appropriated. And they actually need to spend the money and show that it paid.
And they'll pass the money through, is all you're
And then
doing.
we'll
That's
get
all.
reimbursed.
Yeah,
The court's gotten that much money that you see there
okay,
for paying off a copy and getting into a new one. They already have that money, we need to get that paid off. The K-9 maintenance is what we've gotten in collections. Income tax admin, they have a $25,000 refund plus that they've got to get processed before the end of the year because they only have 60 days.
okay,
And then fire department escrow, that's that new fund that we established a couple of months ago to hold 10% of the, when there's a fire, complete destruction of a building, and then we hold 10% of that
okay.
insurance payout to make sure that they do what they need to do, and they've done it apparently, and we need to give it back.
Back to him, okay. Does any of the committee members have a question with the auditor? Does any of the other council members have any questions for the auditor? Administration? I'll make a motion that we add ordinance 27, 2023 to the agenda this evening, suspend the rules, and pass on first reading to help the auditor get these refunds back to him so we comply with the timeline.
I'll second.
Okay. I'll take a vote. Mrs. May,
Yes.
Mr. Holland,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes also. The second item, the auditor handed out to everybody a memorandum of understanding, I take it. Increase and decreases in the appropriations.
It works out to a net zero effect for the general fund. The police department is trying to get another car ordered for their second resource officer. And there's just a few adjustments in some payroll areas that need to be made, but they're gonna be made by lowering appropriation somewhere else.
Okay. All right.
That's what that's all about.
All right. The equipment? The question has come up for, and it looks like General Fund 5200, the equipment, the $65,000. Do you know what?
That's the car.
That's the car, okay. Does anybody on the committee have any questions about? Yes, Mr. Holland?
Mr. Director, does that include lighting, radio? so
I'm
forth?
not sure, I was just told that that's what they need to get a purchase order for.
It's coming fully
Oh, I'm
equipped,
sorry, ma'am.
except for probably the radio installation and the new car cams and stuff. But other than that, it's lights and everything, it's already done.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
it's,
Any other? You sure? Thank you. Other committee?
Yeah.
Any council members have any questions about the auditor's request? Administration,
Mr. Chairman, what ordinance did you say that was, Kelly?
just, what I'm just talking about now, there's no, I'm gonna have the law director draw it.
Oh, okay. I'm
This is
sitting there
just something
thinking
she
this doesn't
handed
match
out.
his 24, that's why I
No,
wanted.
she just handed this out.
Okay,
She said she just worked on it today, wanted to get it so it'd be ready for next meeting. That's
gotcha,
what she's
gotcha.
trying to do.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody in the public? So with that,
I'll make a motion to have legislation drawn up to put on the agenda for next meeting.
Second.
I'll take a vote. Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes also. So, Becker, have you received this? Have you seen this?
Yeah,
I'll
I was
send it
going
to
to do the legislation on that.
Well, do we have legislation already here?
It should be, I sent it out Saturday.
No, it's
No, it's
another
another
one.
one.
This is
Is
new,
it another one?
this is something she just worked on today.
Oh,
Would you,
no. I'll
for-
do
for
legislation
next-
on it.
yeah.
I thought it was the same thing.
can,
Okay.
can we add that to tonight's legislation?
Not without it being a legislative form, no.
Okay, that's fine. But could I amend the ordinance 27, 2023 and attach that to it?
Yeah, you can do that.
That would be great.
Does any council members, administration, have any problem with us doing that? Okay, so what I need to do is take the ordinance that we just suspended the rules on, I mean, 2027, if we passed everything, I need to make a motion to amend ordinance 27, 2023 with the current addition that the auditor has presented us this evening, add that to the ordinance, let the law director make a clean copy, but we'll attach it for now, make a clean copy, and we can pass that this evening also for the auditor to help her book work. Okay, so the motion is to amend. I've made the motion to amend. I need a second.
I'll make that second.
That's per the auditor's memo dated November the 13th.
That would be. Yes.
Okay.
That-
I will
it was-
send it to you, Marvin.
Yeah, she sent it to Marvin. Beth Gundy did, November 13th, the appropriation ordinance. That page one, it's just one page.
Yeah.
It's a zero net is what it comes out to be, but it'll just be added, so it's in print with ordinance 27, 2023. Okay, so I have a first, a second to amend it.
Got it.
Okay, so I'll take a vote. Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Now I need a motion that we have amended. Now I make a motion that we add this to this evening's agenda and has asked to suspend the rules on first reading and pass this evening to help the auditor with,
I'll make that motion.
okay. So,
I'll second.
okay, and take a vote. Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes also. All right, so. Sir? So with that being said, tonight's ordinance is as you have it, plus the handout tonight. Is there any other matter come before the Finance Committee this evening? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting adjourns at 6:25.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the salary committee meeting. Chair is myself and members Kelly Ricklick and Dean Holland. I originally was gonna have this big speech prepared on what we should do and why, and I decided I was not gonna do that tonight. We've talked about the non-bargaining salary pay increases for upwards of 2 months now. And, you know, I believe that and I've said it 100 times, that your people are only as good as you're paying them, and they need competitive jobs and competitive wages. And we're not gonna be able to, it was mentioned, that we could use all of the money that we don't pay our people to do projects, but we're not gonna have very good projects if we don't have very good people that want to work for us and do all of the things. In my opinion, insanity is not treating our people well. That's my opinion. So what I'm proposing, I took the spreadsheet, I took out the community development director for the request of the mayor, left everything else the same. So I would like to propose a 7% for 2024, and then it can be revisited next year, 24, for 25 and 26 and 27. So that is my thoughts on the matter, and that really is all I have to say. Committee members, Mr. Ricklick?
I'd like to go down each one of those that you're doing the increases on, and I'd like to have the reasoning for the increase of the positions, not the individual, positions that we were discussing.
Service director was per the mayor's request.
Okay? And I need, what's changed in the service sector's job description that would cause an increase of money?
The service director is responsible for, I don't know, about 120 employees, 2 bargaining units. He has more responsibility as far as management goes than the police and fire chief in my eyes. So I think that position's been underpaid for many years, and it's time to get it where it needs to be.
I agree.
What?
Police chief, that was a request by the mayor as well, to make that position equal to the fire chief position.
And I think you did well in describing that one, so I don't need a description for that one. The next position?
Was the Parks and Recreation Superintendent. That was also per the mayor's request.
Explain to me how that rate of pay is
Well,
justified.
in the last pay scale, that was the non-bargaining position that got the least amount. And the fact that we're expanding our park system, to me, justifies paying that position more, because there's more responsibilities in that position now. And there will be more in the future, once we get phase 2 of the Southside Community Park completed.
Okay, Mayor, does that also require more responsibility than the water and wastewater superintendent, which you're gonna pay your park department superintendent more money than your wastewater and water, who must or shall have license to operate by accordance to high EPA?
Right, yeah.
You think that's wise to do? That you're recommending to pay a park recreation director more than your water and wastewater superintendent?
Given the fact that we're expanding our park system, yeah.
And they have to hold at least a class 3 license in water, and they have to have at least class 4 in wastewater.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're, have a different opinion on that, I respect that, but I'm just saying.
Well, I have a different opinion on it, because how hard is it to find a water licensed man or a wastewater licensed man at this time?
Oh, it's difficult, sure.
So how you
Like a
justify
lot of
paying a park
positions.
guy more than those gentlemen?
Well, like I say, I'm looking at the expanded park system, and the fact that that position was very underpaid, and the last time we took a look at it, or council took a look at the non-bargaining positions.
Okay, not disagreeing with anything you're saying. The only thing I'm disagreeing with is you're paying a park, how long is the park open during the summer?
Do you want to change it, Mr. Rickley?
No, I want you to change it, Mr. Mayor.
Why don't we just change the water and wastewater superintendents?
Yeah.
What?
Jump them up.
No, I'm just going on what was presented to me. Those were not. the
No, I
ones
know,
we're
I,
saying.
no, I'm just throwing something out.
Excuse me, the conversation, I want to keep order. I want to keep order. I just want to stay order. I want the mayor just to talk, that's all I want.
Well, let's bring the water and wastewater up then.
Okay, then what we need to do is then start at the top and work all the way down. If we're going to talk about ones that were not adjusted over in the left-hand column. I think that's where the discussion needs to be. The other ones are already established. The numbers are established. We've already established those in previous years. I don't think there's reason to discuss those, is what I'm trying to say.
Which ones are you talking about now?
I'm talking about the ones that you recommended changing that's in the
Right.
left-hand column that was given to me by the chair. That's my only thing I wanted to start talking about.
Yeah.
And I just was asking if you
Those are my
thought-
recommendations.
okay.
If this council wants to change it, you have the ability to do that.
We have the ability to change it, we also have you have the ability to go back and give us a good recommendation, which, that's what I think is the right way, that the administrator, which you are the chief administrator,
Mm-hmm.
I think you should be the one that should change them, and then let us vote yes and no. That's how I think,
Well,
that's how I
Mr.
feel
Ricklick-
it should be done.
Mr. Ricklick, what you see is what I'm presenting.
Okay. Next one,
Building and zoning administrator, he has recently, I think we already talked about this, he has recently gotten, additional, schooling and additional certificates, correct, Mr. McAbear?
Yes.
okay, I'm not aware of that, Mr. McBeer. What credentials did he add? Which, I'm just curious, I'm not questioning the credentials.
I'll have him send them to you.
Okay. Now, I'm glad he does, because I think that helps the city. Whenever
Yeah.
when you do go to enforce, he has credentials that mean something, and that means a lot to me. Okay, so I'm not questioning, I just was curious which ones he has. Okay, next one,
Custodian, that's just because he should be making at least $15 an hour this day and age, and that's my recommendation. Yes.
Amy, I just had a question. I'm trying to recall what was done when this was, course correction was done years ago. My understanding was, and I recall council members saying this, that the purpose of this was to not focus on the individual because you could involve politics.
That's correct.
Does this person deserve a raise or doesn't this person deserve a raise? And if they don't like that person, then they might not
Right.
deserve a raise. And my understanding was that the whole point was to take the person out of it and do it for the position. And my understanding was that when you did your review, you looked at what those positions were making comparable to other parts of the state,
Correct.
and that's how you arrived at your numbers.
Correct, and then
So-
recommendations from the mayor and administration
Right.
on their,
So I don't understand why we're going over these one at a time
I
to
don't
determine
either.
whether or not this person
Don't-
deserves a raise.
well, the only thing that was brought up to me was last time that was tried to be discussed, it couldn't be discussed because something went on. It was a 30-minute meeting, and 25 minutes was, I think Mr. Holland took 25 minutes of the 30-minute meeting. I still have the chair, floor.
I know, I was making a note to the chairperson that I would like to speak.
I,
I wasn't
okay,
talking to you, Mr.
okay, I apologize. So, you're just saying the position of custodian needs to be paid more, and
Correct.
I totally agree with that. By looking at your numbers, there's no problem there. The next one?
safety forces secretary, we already passed legislation on this, per the request of the police chief.
With the dollar amount,
That's correct.
was it added to the budget?
We passed the legislation, probably early September would be my guess, right before all of this started.
So you passed it with the salary of $31,200?
It was $18 an hour full-time, whatever that is. They went from part-time to full-time and then increased.
Okay. My question is, as her duties, job description, is there a current job description you have, Mayor, for, are you working on that? Is that? one
There
of the stuff?
is,
Is there?
there is a job description for the police clerk, safety
yeah,
forces secretary.
okay.
Yes, we had that with legislation.
Is
I
it,
believe.
and I'm just asking, I haven't seen it. Is it similar to an executive assistant, or is it more like just a clerical person?
It's closer to an executive assistant.
And that's what I was told too, and that's why I'm just asking, if she's an executive assistant, and she's doing things more, is that a comparable amount?
That's what the police chief recommended.
What-
Yeah.
And you're, okay. You know, I'm not here to take my way if somebody, not somebody, the position does more work. I understand, I agree with that. They deserve more.
Mhm.
But I'm keeping the individual out of it. I have no problem with anybody. That's not the issue. It's what is the job description? What has changed is what I'm trying to get at. And if it has changed and it's wrote down and it has been changed
Well-
before and after, that's all I'm looking at.
I don't think we're looking at if the job descriptions have changed. We're looking at comparables. What are these people, this position making right now versus what should they really be making in today's world, in today's climate?
Okay. and-
That's what we're looking at,
and-
not
and you
should you
compared it-
get more because your job description.
And you
we did-
compared it with comparable cities that have the same income?
I can, yes,
taxes?
that's all in here, yes.
Okay, so, we're-
So,
Mrs. Otter, could I ask you, what is the total income we have coming into our, per year, approximately? I'm not asking for a dollar. You know, is it 35 million, 50 million?
For everything?
Yes, the whole city.
Well, just in income tax and utilities, it's about 20,000.
No, 20 million.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yikes.
I'll keep it.
I think you better cut the budget now.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm gonna say. I think the budget is around 38 million. That's what my question is.
Yes, and some of those are in and out funds, like
Okay, okay,
OPWC
right.
and that
All
kind
right.
of thing.
Right.
I'm just trying
So
to,
I'm trying to, just in my head, figure out, and some of those are grants, and some of those are actual money, let's say 25 million.
okay, 25 million. And now, Sharon, I'm not trying to attack. Did you compare cities that had 25 million coming in, or did they have larger dollar amounts? That's all they're
on the bottom of the spreadsheet, criteria, population under $20,000 and 200 plus employees is what we used.
But you didn't use what the dollar figures that those cities are taking in.
No, we did not.
Okay, I think that is being comparable. What tax basis do we have compared to those tax bases? I think that's a. that's-
If you would like to take that,
No,
as part of
I'm
your
not the chair.
research, then I would be
I-
fine with that.
Then we need to table this matter, and I will do that. Are you asking me that, Chair?
I'm asking you if that's what you want to do, then.
I want to
fine.
compare dollar figures that's coming into a city to dollar figures coming into other cities we're gonna compare wages to. If we're gonna start increasing certain jobs, I wanna make sure we have the same tax money coming in, because the bottom line is, we only have so much money. And if we use it and can't give services, I'm here for the citizens to get as many services as they can, and I want to continue to give them as many services as they can. I want to make sure that this does not hurt the city, cripple the city in a point that we have to go look for tax money or money somewhere else.
And I do not believe that that is the case.
Okay, but I think the only way you can justify that is by money coming in to money being spent, is what I'm saying. That's my, I guess,
Well,
that's what I'm saying. So if you want me to take that on, I will.
well,
And I
if we
would-
want to have this done by the end of the year, that's probably not going to happen.
Well, I thi-
And I believe that we need to get this buttoned up, because many people have said it's not fair to move this on to January for new council members coming in, having to deal with this right off the rip.
And I'm glad
And
they
at that
do it.
time, you're also going to have, you're gonna have retro to the beginning of '24, so.
It's okay. I mean, I'd rather get it right than not, is what I'd rather do.
Okay, Mr. Ricklick, you do that.
Okay.
Mrs. Chair, can I suggest something?
Sure.
If anybody goes out and tries to compare revenues, that's fine, but you better know what you're asking for, because if you just ask somebody to give you their revenues, like I could tell you it's 36 million, because our revenue has to cover our expenses.
Can I have you help me?
You want to be asking for operating revenues.
Can I ask you to help me for that, Mrs. Otter? I'll gladly come in.
When I have
We-
time, if I have time, I can do that.
You give me a couple days, you can go, we can contact other cities. I'd gladly do that very quickly, okay? I'll take a
Okay.
day off work and I'll come in with you.
Got a question. seems like you're not taking into account, they've done a lot of work, Kelly. And you're not.
Point of
taking-
order. Auditor, I mean,
Councilmember?
law director,
Didn't you recognize the president
I,
to speak just now?
I know, like, he asked me a question.
Well, I'm gonna defer to the chairman. Do you want to hear what the president has to say?
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, you guys have put in a lot of work, you put all the stuff in, and now we got one member here that he doesn't agree with what you guys have recommended. He's one vote.
I know.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, can I address the president?
Yes.
Mr. President, I got none of this stuff, and I'm part of this committee. Don't you think each committee member should be able to review it earlier than right now?
No,
But Kelly, I don't get any copies of the finance committee.
But I'm
when
telling
do
you,
yours.
that's why I'm asking questions now, because I have not had a chance to ask any questions, because I didn't get any of the information.
You were on the
These
email.
two discussed it prior.
I sent the emails to you and our alternate, Mr. Rippeth.
I said I didn't get to discuss it, is what I said.
You haven't
This
called
is-
me one time
this-
since this
And
whole
you
thing
haven't, and you haven't
started.
called me, I didn't know this
So,
was coming
if-
tonight
Mr.
until I
Chair.
got back in town.
Mrs. Chairwoman,
Yes.
in defense of the chairwoman over there, you weren't here for the meetings. There were several meetings, you weren't
Whoa,
present.
whoa, whoa, this is a new
No,
meeting, this is a new meeting.
The whole time we discussed the.
But this is all new. This is a new, we start all over when you vote something down
Uh-huh.
and you come back.
It's still the
It
same.
all starts new.
Same conversation.
No, I-
That you had the opportunity to be here, but you chose not to be.
Well, I worked on my own way of doing one,
You
and
do
that's why I
enough
was,
to be
I
here and
compared, I
represent
went
your
to
citizens. You
towns
talk
and I
about
compared
representing your,
stuff.
I had the floor, Mr. Ricklick, if you'd like to mind. You took an oath to represent your citizens to be here for the meetings, not to be, I've missed one meeting in 10 years. So I don't need to hear that you didn't have a chance. You got all the emails, you had all the conversations, you could have reached out to the chairwoman, even if you weren't.
First time I got was tonight. I can tell, I honestly tell you that, because I got back in town from Columbus, I called the law director, I says, I just got this information tonight. Is that what I did not ask you, Marvin? That I said I just got back, and I did not have this on Friday, and I did not have it on Saturday when I left.
It should have been sent out Saturday.
Okay, but I didn't have it before I left town, and I can't get it, and
Mr.
I'm
Mr.
sorry that I
Chairwoman,
have,
Amy,
Mr. McAfee?
but I think what Dan's saying to you, Kelly, is it is the same material. It's different legislation, but this material is 100% the same from 6 weeks ago.
okay, but I have not had, and I'm asking, I'm here in my committee, and I'm asking, I can't get two of them together, because I'm violating the sunshine law.
No,
So
I'm not asking
him.
anybody, I'm just saying, my point was, is this piece of legislation, all this stuff here is 100% the same from 6 weeks ago.
Could be.
Or 8, no, not could
Could
be.
Yeah, yes. No, it's not identical. She told me she removed somebody.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the pay is.
Yeah,
This is the same stuff 8 weeks ago,
Okay.
so don't have it's a surprise that you got it Friday or today. This is exactly the same material that was in everybody's hands 8 weeks ago.
okay, that's fine, but I'm asking a question now. I'm
No,
part of the
I'm not
committee.
talking about any questions.
Okay,
I'm
we're
talking
good.
about the simple fact
Thank you.
that you said this is all something new.
We start new when you start new legislation.
But
And that's what
this
we're
is
doing.
all the same stuff.
But I've researched since then, and that's why I'm trying to bring this up.
So we're clear that this is the same information you had 8 weeks ago, besides some people taken off of there.
And not being 3 years out.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. That was only my point.
You making a motion to table it?
If she's giving me, yeah, if she's giving, that's why I went to the auditor, to make sure the auditor will help me, because I want to make sure I compare apples to apples when I give the information back to the chair. Because I'm going to report back to the chair. If that's what you want.
It's not what I want, but
Okay.
I don't think that it's necessary. I think that this needs to be taken care of tonight. We need to get this done and quite frankly, stop talking about it. It is what it is.
Well, I think some of the wages are too much. I think some are too low. I want to
Well-
make sure you understand that.
well, I do,
And I don't
and
get,
I-
and I don't get to do that. 'cause
I do understand that, and
Yeah.
actually, I had reached out to the HR director, and she works on the pay scales, and, you know, she had no problems with any of this.
Well,
So they are where they need to be, and she's the one doing the hiring, looking at the job criteria, looking at all the things.
you know,
And you know, and we had this conversation as well. If you're paying people not the correct wages, you're not gonna get the best people, you're not gonna get anybody. Look, why did the police chief have to increase the wage on the secretary? Because she wasn't getting good candidates, and the candidates she did get said, yeah, sorry, because that's not enough money.
But that was one from a part-time person to a full-time person. That's what.
It's the same, it's
No,
the
it's- no.
same thing.
No, but I think that's not. A part-time person's
Okay.
wages is different, and I think we increased them, and you said you increased them by what the police chief said, which is fine. I think she deserves more money, because she's an executive, I think she's an executive assistant by handling
How,
warrants and things like that. From what does she handle warrants?
however, the police chief made that recommendation for that job position.
And that's why I
So
left it- I
that
left
should
it
be in
go.
her hands, because it's an administrative function.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not administrative, we are legislative,
And
and that
you
is
are
what our
absolutely
job.
correct. We are legislative, and we get to make those
Okay, we have
decisions.
about 10 more minutes left, so I'd like to,
You're gonna table, and I'm gonna get that research.
I'm not
for you.
tabling it, no.
Wait, you just gave me the authorization to research.
You can do all the research
Take
you
a
want.
vote now, right?
We
To
can
table?
vote, and I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
And
table
to see if you
it.
wanna table or
You
not.
can do all the extra research that you would like. I'm not doing
It's
it.
not good, you know, good, because the legislation's gonna, if you're gonna pass the legislation, they're gonna pass it. And it's not, you're not giving the public to respond to if you're gonna try to pass it in an emergency.
I'm
because the
not trying to
public-
pass it as an emergency, absolutely. I
Okay.
want it to go 3 readings, absolutely,
Okay.
as it should.
But I still wanna go through all these, I can ask
You
the
got-
questions.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
You have a second of the motion.
I'm not allowed to ask other questions?
I would, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Then the next person down there?
Income tax administrator was recommended by requested by the auditor.
And
That's all
the
noted on
one,
here,
the
who
one, the one
requested
above
the
was
things.
for the,
Council clerk
And
was
yet-
recommended by the council president, like
Okay.
it says right here on the spreadsheet.
okay. Then the community cares coordinator,
Recommended by the fire
chief.
chief. Yeah.
Did Mayor, did you agree
Yes,
with all
and-
those?
And the workload is such, Mr. Rickley, where that position does need to be full-time. And it's been a really blessing to this community, the number of people that have been.
Are we trying to do full-time with the dollar amount that you placed, that the police, fire chief put there?
That's correct. I
Correct,
was moving to
full-time.
Okay, so, okay, let me just ask, did we approve her full-time yet, or do we need to approve her and then make this wage match? Or say that's the wage once it's full-time,
That's the wage once it's full-time.
once it's full-time?
Right.
Okay, all right. Now I got a question about the ones down below with the health department.
Those were already passed by the health department.
Health board is only a recommending board. Did council see those to vote on? Was that passed on an ordinance by council?
I'm not
Go ahead.
I'm
Go
not
ahead, Mr.
sure
Lee.
they're a recommending board. I think they are a governing board for
Correct.
that body and that they can set their own salaries.
That's correct.
So they could set the.
And they did.
And is it similar like what the courts do, Marvin?
It's very similar to what the courts do. Of course, council could abolish the courts and could abolish the health department if they so chose to do so. But in terms of salary, that's a separate governing board.
Yeah, I'm just, from when I researched some of those, not all of them, some of those salaries are not in line with city health departments comparable to us or some county, but I don't want to mix county and city together, is what I don't want to do, Chair. That's why I don't want to do that. And then my only last thing is if you're not going to let me do the research and you're going to try to move this forward, is I'm just going to express the citizens that have come to me. Most of them are older individuals, I will say that. There have been some young that they feel that a 7% increase is too large. And when they would say that, I said, well, what do you think is a fair increase? Most of them said between 3.5 to 3, they feel that is very comfortable for our area. And I said, I will support them at 3.5. I will tell the chair before anything's voted on, if we can change that to 3.5, I'll support this totally, wholeheartedly, and think it's fair.
Well,
That's what I'm telling you. I would- if you-
3.5 would be absolutely wonderful had we been doing this for the last 20 years and increasing them appropriately, which we have not been clearly.
Ms.
So-
Chairwoman,
Yes.
Can I have, I'm glad you said that, Kelly, because I had, went in and did it, like we talked earlier about the water and the wastewater superintendents. So I looked at them, I think the Thursday after our meeting, and, with the 7% here that would be in 2024, they would average a 3.4% raise over those 10 years. If it went out to a 12 years, those guys would be getting a 4.1%. You've got to take it in its totality to get it. 7%, I believe Councilman Rippeth said one time, you've got to look at it and see like, oh, that does look like a lot, but when you've been grossly underpaid, that's what you get. If you look at, here's a strange one. This will knock you out, and some guys are at a 2.9% even with a 777. I dug one up the other day, and you look at, right now, your cemetery superintendent, 67,000 with a 7% increase. In '09, that budget number was $64,028. $3,000 more dollars in 14 years. I don't know what that percentage is, but it's not much.
But I think.
So you gotta look at position.
I am. I'm
Don't
looking
look
at
at the
position.
person.
I'm not. I'm just saying, what was discussed when that was done, he was a retiree hired to help save the city money. That is why it was not increased exponential to everybody else.
But you're, again, it's not.
It
looking
had
at the
nothing- but it had to do with
You're
saving the
looking at-
city.
You gotta look at that position.
I am.
We just said that's not what you wanna do.
But that's, when you retire, rehire somebody, you do. Because I haven't heard it say you want to be like the schools. The schools retire, rehire, you go back to 0 years when you go
So-
retire, rehire.
Well, you won't be here, so I'm just
No,
gonna
I
say.
won't be here. No, I won't.
Well, I was just gonna say, if we hire someone, that needs to be up to 80, 85.
I don't know what that number is. That's for the mayor and.
No, I'm saying if that's how it was grossly underpaid because of that cause,
We have,
then it has to be that.
I don't think it's
sorry.
comparable.
we have just a couple of minutes left. I would like our other committee member to have an
Sorry.
opportunity to speak. No, your turn.
Madam
Mr.
Chairman,
Holland,
I
yes.
would suggest, and I realize that you would like to get this done before the end of the year. And if we don't pass legislation this evening for first reading, we're gonna have to have a special meeting, part 2 or 3 or whatever it turns out to be. Just a very quick comment. I did discuss with several cities their actual pay base, or no, I'm sorry, their actual tax base. You can't get information just through a telephone call with another city. I promise you, once you start inquiring with these other cities, yes, I'll be glad to provide you that information, but it'll take me about 2 or 3 weeks. In some cases, they just declined to provide the information. They didn't have staff to prepare the information. This was not only done on the tax base, it was done on salaries themselves. So I'm gonna suggest, if you're going to start the research all over again, you better cinch up your saddle, because it's gonna take a great deal of work. We have spent hours upon hours. It was suggested that we had not done any thought, or haven't given any thought to these pay scales when we started working on this. I will assure you that we have spent hours upon hours on the telephone. I have Ms. May on auto dial now, both on my home and my cell phone, because we have talked so much. We met on my kitchen table, and when it got too small, we moved to Bueller's, to the Mill Restaurant, because their tables were much larger, and we met on Saturdays for hours upon hours. We met with and talked with other municipalities. We talked with the Ohio Municipal League. We talked with the Ohio Department of Labor, the Federal Department of Labor, the National League of Cities, the International Association of City Managers. I don't know who else we're supposed to talk to in preparing this kind of data. We followed the same guidelines, basically, that we did 3.5 years ago. And 3.5 years ago, I stated to council, when it was adopted, be prepared, we're going to need to discuss this again in 2 years. Well, we had a new councilman that came on board, Councilman Seldenwright, who was assigned the salary committee. He was given a notebook which had been prepared at that time that was about this thick. As a result of Mr. Seldenwright leaving, it never got addressed. And now it has drug out 2 additional years to the point where we are today. That's not being considered in what we did here. We only took the data, and you see all the comparable cities that we've used. We wound up using Ohio Municipal League only because we could get accurate data from them, and in some cases, especially at the federal level, we questioned whether we were getting accurate data or not. I've got a whole list of other things here to discuss, but if you are looking for a second for Mr. Ricklick's motion, I guess you could call for a second. I don't intend to second that.
Okay, I will, Mr. Ricklick's made a motion to table this discussion, so that he could do more research. Do we have a second? Mr. Ricklick?
The only thing I want to say is, you two met and did all this work, and I was never informed one time that you two were meeting and discuss this and never had any input. I just want to make sure that's clear so the citizens get to hear that part of the committee was no part of all this work, but I was 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago or 3 years ago when we adjusted all those wages. And I just want to say, when that all happened, I did agree with Mr. Hall, we do need to do it. And I think we hired a firm which Mr. Murtis came in, and he was giving a high and a low for positions, so the mayor could have new people come in, start low, and work their way up. I've never seen any more of that. And I also want to say, Mr. McAveer, when you saw what your wage was, when we did that adjustment, you thanked, because you said, I didn't think I was going to get that much. And I said, you deserve, that position deserves it. And that's what I remember saying. But
You
again,
know what else you said that night?
what did I say?
Remember me.
Yeah, remember me, yeah, because I'm going to be leaving.
No, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, but again, I believe that, yes, they need to be, but I think cramming at the end of the year, I don't think that's the correct way to do this properly, and I just want to say that. Do I think everybody deserves a raise? Yes, I do. Damn, you do. Everybody does a good job, and I expect everybody to do a good job, and I think, Mayor, you expect everybody to do a good job. I'm not disputing anything. I just don't like how the process is going. I just wish we could do a better job. Thank you.
What is the ordinance number?
It is,
Hold on, Paul, we haven't started the meeting yet.
ordinance 25, 2022.
You're gonna have to wait, Paul.
You're gonna have to wait.
2025.
25, 2023. So,
There's a meeting going on right now, Paul.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to finish up right now.
At 7:30 is the council meeting. This is a committee meeting. Sorry.
Go ahead, Dean.
Okay. Madam Chairman, I would make a motion that ordinance 25, 2023 be adopted and sent forward to council for first reading tonight.
I would second that motion. Take a roll call. Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick?
Yes.
And I vote yes myself. I don't have anything else to go over. Dan, how are you on time?
I've got plenty of time.
Okay. Any other members want to make any comments? Administration, anyone?
Hey, one more thing. The same day, and everybody can go on that OTCO website, there was a strange one that I saw, and everybody can look at it, OTCO jobs. It was the Village of Attica for a water superintendent, 875 people, no industry or anything in there, $35 an hour plus license bonuses. That's all I got.
Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
All right.
It's now 7:05 PM. We'll be calling the Public Works and Economics Development
Yeah.
Committee to order. Members are myself, Mrs. Ramos, who's excused, and Mr. Rippeth, and my alternate is Mr. Ricklick. One first item we wanted to discuss tonight was Resolution 19, 2023. It's in regards to the airport grant funding application. It's kind of just copy and paste pretty much every year that what we do. Anybody on the committee have any questions about that one? Mr. Ricklick, you have any questions?
Ken?
You have any questions about the airport funding?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Seeing none, I take a motion to add resolution. One thing I wanted to add, Mayor, you might know, do we need that passed on first reading?
No, it can go three if,
We can go three, we got time?
yeah.
Then I would move that we put that on the agenda for first reading tonight.
Okay, do we have a second? Second, Mr. Ricklick. And we'll take a roll call here. Mr. Ribbeth?
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick?
Yes?
And I'll vote yes also. We were gonna discuss the vacant property ordinance, but I got to talking to the law director today, and he has a few more kinks that we wanna work out, some things that have come up. I mean, he can speak on it if he wanted to.
Just there were some recent lawsuits that might impact that.
Yeah, so we wanna wait on that. We wanna get it right and spend some more time on that. Yes, Mr. Holland?
Mr. Chairman, pardon me for interrupting, were those lawsuits against our city or
No.
some other entity? Thank you.
If they were against our city, I would advise you in executive session, Mr. Holland,
We were trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
and we'd have probably been served.
I'm definitely behind the law director on this. We want to make sure we get it right when we do make legislation for this, so we're not going to be going back at it in 6 months or a year, you know. And the other one we were going to talk to, I was just going to kind of have we didn't finish getting a really more conversation about the resolution with the ordinance with the rental registration. And like a couple of things we were looking, the law director was concerned with potential lawsuits with the way we were gonna word it as far as, doing the inspections by the city and all that. And I gotta thank Mr. Rippeth for doing some research on this and Mrs. Ramos too. And we found a couple different cities that don't have quite the abrasive. And it looks like we got the city of Piqua, Ohio, which is about 3 hours away. But as you can see, like, I'll have to make sure we get this information out to everybody, because we're not gonna try to do anything tonight. But they changed it, 6 times within about a 4-month period. So you can definitely tell it's a hot wire subject, but what the gist of what I've got out of it, I didn't really get to research as much as Mr. Rippeth, but it's more of, the landlords being more responsible for their own inspections. And being more, and kind of like where I was coming from, is not so much the inspection part of it, but I think I talked to the mayor, I don't know, what was it, 8 years ago, we talked about this when you were the income tax director, or
Right.
10 years ago, and that was when oil and gas was really prevalent. And we don't know if it's gonna be again or if it's not, but we were having a lot of issues with, people coming in renting for 4 months, 6 months, and we have no idea, and that's all those income tax dollars that the city's losing. But the fact of making them register so we can track that a little bit easier. And, the way some say that's a invasion of privacy thing, but I think as a homeowner, my name's on everything. Everybody knows where I live. Why shouldn't it be the same for renters? I think that, and it wouldn't be, then Bowling Green, I was reading up on theirs, they have a one that, where they, not only they let the landlords do the inspections, but they have to get, if they want to do them themselves, they've got to get certified as an inspector. Like it's a state program that you got to go through to do it, the landlords would go through it, or they could hire somebody that is certified to do it. It wouldn't be a city employee, it would be on their own And then every year, I think they have to go in, turn out, like if an apartment building has 15 places in it, each individual who's living there, and if somebody leaves, they gotta go through and put the new person in there and stuff, you know, so that we know who lives where. That's, yes, yes, Mr.
Just a
King.
question. So a landlord can become certified
Yeah.
to then
If
inspect
they didn't
their
wanna pay.
own property?
Right, if they didn't wanna pay somebody else to do it, that, from what I understood of it, that, I didn't, like I said, I didn't go as deep into it yet, but from what I read out of the gist of it was, yeah, that basically, you know, like a landlord could go through, you know, especially if they have a lot of property, you know, like if they have, you know, 30 rentals or something, that would make sense for them to do that. I'm sure in today's 2023 that it's all online, I'm sure they can do everything, you know, I don't know if they have to do it in person for any of it, but, I haven't looked that far into it, but this is something for the committee and for council to think about and look at, you know, that it's more than just, even though we all know, and like I've seen some pictures from our fire inspector and from our building inspector that are, you know, makes me wanna be like, no, we need to get into these places and stuff, but well, as we found out that that's not so easy, that's, you know, that there's more to it with potential lawsuits, and et cetera, that I think the way these guys are going out of these cities here, which I'm sure there's more, I just haven't gotten that far into it yet. And like the law director told me that this is one of those issues, just like the vacant property and just like the short-term rentals. This is like big issues that we want to spend a lot of time on, that we want to make sure we get it right. So, yes, Mr. Law Director.
What I would suggest, there are three major pieces of legislation that are fundamentally different than anything we've seen before. One is rental registration that you're discussing now. The other one is short-term rentals, and the other one is vacant property registration. All three of those are gonna impact property owners throughout the city and our citizens. What I would recommend is that each piece be taken individually.
Yeah.
And that you have at least a 1 hour meeting on each one.
Correct.
For input from council and see what council's will is on those.
Right.
And I'd be available for that entire hour to answer detailed questions about it.
Yeah.
And give you updates on the law.
Well, my original ambition for this meeting was with the vacant property, and I thought we were that close before these new issues came about, that we could've got that one knocked out. That's why I only scheduled it a half hour, but the rental registration, that's more of just, you know, just trying to start the conversation, get people research material that they can look at, and that we can come back and have an hour meeting and a healthy discussion about it. Yes, Mr. Pace.
Mr. Law Director, of those three, that, which one in your mind is the most important? That would affect the city the most?
From my
and the
perspective, the
and
most
least
important, from my
intrusive?
perspective, the most important was the vacant property registration. Simply because that's where we have a big issue. That's where we've got homeless people living, drugs. It's a danger to kids that can crawl in these places that are dilapidated and falling down. Those are the places we're bringing nuisance actions against, to tear them down or to get them sold off and rehabbed. That's probably my biggest concern.
And that's the first one that's the top of the list.
Airbnb might be a big one in the future.
Like I said, I don't wanna throw people off by talking about the rental registration, but I just figured I'd open it up because we had time to kill, with not being ready on the vacant property yet, that we would just discuss that and, like I said, give us some more time. Yeah, Mr. Ritter.
I would follow up, Mr. Law Director. Is that the one that is facing the most legal challenges?
No, the one that's facing the most legal challenges is the rental registration.
Okay.
That's the one that is
So the
under
vacant
assault.
property maybe, I don't wanna call it low-hanging fruit, but it may be the more low-hanging fruit to deal with
Yeah,
as a committee.
Dover has a vacant property registration.
Great.
They've not faced any legal issues.
Especially with the short-term rental, as we were talking about, that it's so new that
Yeah.
there's not enough data out there to figure out exactly what we can
Well,
and
and
can't
that's,
do.
I'm gonna address that in my talk about some of the research stumbling blocks I'm running into because it is so new.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee?
None?
None? How about council members? Anybody have any questions on rental registration? Everybody got enough places they can start looking? All right. Anything else to come before committee this evening?
Hey, Dan,
Yes,
it's
yes.
just something we might want to share with our new council members. They'll be coming on in January,
Yeah.
so some of that
Yeah, because
information.
all this is gonna be coming over to the next year. I mean, it's gonna be it's gonna be a long thing. And, well, the first one is the vacant property, like, as you heard the law director discussing, it's a lot of putting some more teeth into our legislation when it comes to the dilapidated properties and being able to go after it a little easier for our building inspector and our fire inspector. And then, the rental registration, that kind of came to our attention for, like I said, I'm coming at more of the income tax side of it. But originally it was brought to our attention by like the fire inspector brought me on a slideshow. And I'd recommend you guys go over one-on-one, because, you know, I don't want to bring it to the council if we're not going to be doing the inspections ourselves, but go ask him about it, see if he can show you that slideshow. And, he has it all on his tablet and stuff. It'd take 10 minutes or something if you stop by and talk to him. But yeah, it's another thing that we do. I think, to not be abrasive to the landlords, but yet know where all our people live. You know, that's basically, I mean, I think it's important. And then the last one we were talking about is for the Airbnbs. We have a bed tax on all the hotels, and they've kind of all made it known. And I had Dee Grossman in here from the Visitors Bureau, and she was telling that basically from the hotels that they don't think it's fair that they're being taxed, you know, and they consider those Airbnbs a business just like they are, you know, that they don't have there's no boundaries. But as we were talking with Marvin, that one's gonna be a little sticky to try to come through with something that would be.
Yeah, if we've got time, I can address that now.
Yeah, go ahead,
Save you some of
Marvin.
my
Yeah,
report. One of the things I was gonna report is, and I told Dan this morning, is that I've researched it, and my assistant researched it. I even had my law clerk, who's in the second year of law school, research it. And the issue is whether or not you can apply a bed tax as identified in the ORC to an Airbnb. An Airbnb is a little bit different than a hotel. There's no food preparation, there's no turn-down service, there's no cleaning service that's available at Airbnb. That is just somebody that is allowing their house to be used short-term by somebody who's responsible for everything. They're responsible for their own food, their own cleaning, everything. And from what I've seen, I put this out on the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association website today, where you can get input from other attorneys. And I put out there that I need to see, I have found charter cities. If you're a charter city, you just change the charter. You're not as bound by the Ohio Revised Code as we are. We are a city by statute. We're bound by what's in the Ohio Revised Code. Now, there's a big penumbra of home rule law, but the courts have gradually chipped away at that, and so is the legislation, so is the legislature. The state legislature chipped away at our home rule law. So, and because every community handles short-term rentals different, there's no uniform thing on it. There is, the issue that I'm trying to find is I have been able to find charter cities that charge a bed tax. What I put on today was that I need an example of a non-charter city, in parentheses, I put city by statute, that is utilizing the section of the ORC, and I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I said the specific section, and applying that as a bed tax to short-term rentals, i.e. Airbnbs. And I haven't got something back on that yet. I put that out about 11 o'clock this morning, and I'm waiting to hear back, but there's, when I looked at, there's not a whole lot. When you're doing research, you are researching case law, meaning this issue has come up and been challenged in the courts. There's not a whole lot of that here. We had to go outside of the state of Ohio to find places where it was challenged, and a lot of the states outside of there do not consider it in the same vein as a hotel. They consider it a different entity. So that's what I'm trying to narrow down, because I do not want us being sued on something that is a tax that we just created ourselves, the same way that the city of Yorksville is being taxed or charged right now. I don't want that to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Law Director. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
When you research, Marvin, have you found information about inspections of Airbnbs. To me, that's more of a concern of mine.
Yeah.
Is that they should have the same inspections and requirements as what the hotels and motels.
Yeah, the current legislation that is before the committee has all that in there. I'm not concerned about those aspects of the legislation at all. I'm concerned about making sure that we do the bed tax correctly. And that's where I'm running into problems, because there's just not a lot of case law out there on it. It hasn't been challenged as an issue, so the courts haven't really ruled
So
on it.
you haven't seen any issues with inspections?
No,
So that part of the legislation, we're good. It's the bed tax portion of it.
yeah.
Is that the Airbnb lobbying for that? Or is that just, we just don't have any,
I have
we just don't have nothing in place?
I have no idea what Airbnb is.
Because I know they're
lobbying
big,
for.
I mean, it's a big,
Yeah, they're big, and the state legislature took it up. The site that we see that tells you whether something's likely to pass or not likely to pass, has had that likely to pass for a long time. It's never passed, so there's no regulation. My guess is that Airbnbs don't want to be regulated by the state of Ohio, and that might be why it hasn't been passed. It would be much simpler if it was. Instead, we've got 88 counties and every individual village and city doing it completely different.
okay.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah, so it's held up, it's not, it's just stalemated down in Columbus.
Yeah, like I said, the site says it's likely to pass, but it hasn't gone
So
anywhere.
your hands are tied.
Have to ask our state rep and state senator where that stands for us.
Okay.
I would much rather, I'd prefer that.
Right.
Then we have a uniform set of laws, and then I know how to apply laws.
Okay, we have anything else to come before committee? Not seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn
So moved.
at 7:22.
This meeting of New Philadelphia City Council will now come to order. Would you please rise, remain standing for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Mr. Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you please pray with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you on behalf of all gathered here tonight. We thank you for your many and abundant blessings. We thank you for the city in which we live. We thank you for life itself and just the measure of health that you've given us each. And we thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of being here to represent citizens of this city in the work that needs to be done. Father, you established the city authorities to maintain peace and order and justice. Therefore, I just pray for our mayor, all of our city officials, all of the first responders in our midst. For this assembled body tonight, I ask that you would just grant us the wisdom to govern and even in the face of conflicting interests, to work together for the benefit of our city. That you would give us a devotion to the welfare and the true needs of our people, Lord, and that you would give us the ability to work together in harmony, regardless of our own personal views. Father, I pray for the agenda that's set before us here, that you'll give us guidance, and you'll be with us every step of the way. It's in your glorious name I pray this. Amen.
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 I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, and welcome to our city council meeting. I'd like to welcome our three newly elected council members, Mr. Mike Walker, Mr. Chris Craneville, and Mr. Tom Simmelink. So welcome to our meeting tonight, guys. Congratulations on your elections. Roll call.
Mr. Holland.
Present.
Mr. Lonzer.
Present.
Mrs. May. Present. Mr. Pace.
Present.
Mrs. Ramos. Mr. Ricklick.
Present.
Mr. Ribbit.
Present.
All right, Mr. Ramos is excused from the meeting tonight. Everybody's had a chance to read the agenda. Are there any additions? Yes, Mr. Ricklick.
I'd like to add ordinance 27, 2023 to the agenda this evening.
Do I have a second? Mrs. May, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
Are there any other additions to the agenda tonight?
Oh, yes, Mr. President, I'd like
Mr.
to add
Lonzer.
proposed resolution 19, 2023 to tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ribbit. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Are there any other? This is Mrs. May.
I'd like to add ordinance 25, 2023 to tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
All right, now I'd entertain a motion to approve our agenda tonight with the three additions. Mrs. May, thank you. Need a second, Mr. Ricklick, thank you. Any discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
All right, agenda has been approved. Everybody's had a chance to review the minutes for our last council meeting. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that
Mr.
motion,
Lonzer,
Mr.
need a
President.
second? Mr.
Yeah.
Holland, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit.
Yes.
All right, minutes have been approved. Correspondence, Ms. Courtwright.
To Council President from Auditor Gundy dated November 10th, 2023. This is an email titled New Ordinance regarding the 2023 Permanent Appropriations. Auditor Gundy asked Mr. Kemp to assign the legislation to the Finance Committee. To Council Clerk from Councilman Holland, this is dated November 13th, 2023. This is an email titled Ambulance Committee Meeting. Councilman Holland asked the clerk to set a meeting for the Ambulance Committee prior to the November 27th council meeting. To President Kemp from Law Director Fate, dated November 12th, 2023. This is an email titled, "Please assign to Parks and Recreation with Resolution 2023 as the attachment." President Kemp asked Mr. Pace to take this issue into his committee. To Council and Administration from Mayor Day, dated November 13th, 2023. This is an email titled, "MWCD Makes Historic Economic Impact Across the Region." And to Council and Administration from Mayor Day, dated November 13th, 2023, the Mayor's Report. And that concludes correspondence for this evening, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Ms. Courtwright. All right, move into our administrative reports. First up, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, fellow administrators, and guests. A couple of things I want to touch on from the report I sent you earlier today. I'd like all of you to make some plans to bring the family to the annual downtown Christmas lighting ceremony. It's coming up this Friday, November 17th at 6:45 p.m. The city's purchased several new pieces of decorative lighting for the street light poles, but the most impressive addition is a 20-foot LED lighted Christmas tree, which will be located on the House of Stone's downtown quadrant. Matter of fact, it was put up today. The tree was purchased by local art supporters Don and Susie Whittingham and donated to the city by the Rotary Heritage Fund. The tree will feature LED lighting displays programmed to music throughout the holiday season. In addition, the Southside Neighbors Facebook group has brought back a Christmas holiday tradition. This past weekend, they put up a number of original Christmas displays on the lawn at the corner of South Broadway and Commercial Avenue Southeast. The lighting of those displays will be included in Friday's ceremony, which will also feature holiday music and performances by New Philadelphia students and community members. And as an added touch to our Thanksgiving and Christmas celebrations, the mayor's office is encouraging downtown merchants and restaurants to decorate their storefronts. I want to thank everyone for their efforts in making this a very special holiday season in New Philadelphia and the beginning of some new traditions in our town. Also, the police department has been successful in finding a new cruiser, thanks to the efforts of Administrative Captain Paul Rossi. So now what's left is to have the second school resource officer in place is for Police Chief Paul Hovey and New Philadelphia School Superintendent Amy Wentworth to finalize contract details for the SRO. An officer has completed the required training, and it looks like that the new SRO will be on duty sometime in January. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions for the mayor? Mr. Rickick.
Has
Yes,
that
sir.
resource officer been identified yet, or is that something? you have
Yes,
to put up?
but I'd rather have the police chief make that
Okay,
announcement.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Mayor Day.
Thank you.
Service Director, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. The 250 water line has been completed. We know that was the one that was leading from the plant over to Blake Avenue. That's been completed. The bacteria test sample come back clean. So now we got to do a pressure test. Will be next. They have not told us when that'll be. We're urging it to be as quick as possible because, as we know, we only have the other line going and servicing the south side. Everything is completed. The vault has been filled. The vault got filled last Wednesday. If you remember, that's a 4x5 vault that runs underneath there. We had to have 90% of it filled, and that got completed. So that is done. So once we get the pressure test done, I'm sure the next council meeting will be able to report back on that. So we're just waiting on that to be held. As most of you know, the Franklin Square has been completed. Storm sewer phase 1. All the restoration was done early last week. We still have not did a final walkthrough yet. There's a couple things. They're gonna have to come back and reseed naturally because this late in the year it's just not gonna grow. So that'll be one of our punch list items. But again, that work is all completed. All the underground work is done. But again, we gotta do a final walkthrough, hopefully here next week, the way they talked about that. Also, if everybody saw also all the small cities paving. The only thing that needed done there, all the paving's naturally done, all the berm work is done. They still need to do some double yellow in some areas underneath the underpass on Mill Avenue. The way the truck is rigged up, they gotta do that. I think they're gonna push that by hand. And also, some directional arrows. If you get into them in any of the intersections, you'll see some directional arrows
need to still be completed yet. But again, they're gonna get that done, by the end of this week. That's all done in thermoplastic, so it's a better product versus just a latex paint. So, we spec that out, and anytime they can pay for 95%, and usually that lasts about 5 years. So it helps us in the long run also. Also, city paving, the last of it's finally here. They're down today. They grinded Forbes Avenue, then they jumped over to 6th Street, and that was from High to the creek. They went down to Streb, and then from Streb, they need to go over here in the alleys here at First Drive and Ashwood. If anybody's been over there, they know why. But there's a few things that they're gonna have to do for us over there. We need to dig some of that out, and then we're gonna put base in, and the same thing on 2nd Street Southwest, the 700 block area. Because we had some 2-inch down there, we went all to 6-inch, and our guys, or this water distribution is installed that. So we got a couple services we still need to do down there, so we're kind of under the gun there to get Newton's in there and try to be out of here by the end of this week. But when that's done, that'll be the end of the city paving. Everything on that list that was all handed out, that'll be completed. But again, I will make sure that I report on that it's completed and what that ended up being, so I'll make sure I get that. And then also just a quick reminder about leaves. Continue to rake them into the curb strip, please not in the streets, but I know that's not easy to do and so on. But again, right now, the small truck is on the southeast, the south side, so from Commercial down. And they're gonna wipe out the complete south side with the small truck and then move uptown. Ray said something about maybe doing a little better mapping, so he might do something on social media. And if he does, look for it out there, or have him put a bulletin out for that. And that's the end of my report. Any questions?
Any question? Yes, Mr. Pace.
Is the leaf pickup this year, does it seem like it's going smoother or faster? Because living on Oak Street, it seemed like they were gone like that, as compared to.
Well, I'll tell you
Weather?
what, no, because today we wasn't able to put it out because of manpower, so.
Maybe it's
Most
just-
of the time we do. Most of the time there's 2 trucks. There's a small truck and a big truck. So if they got over on Oak, probably getting over there a little ahead of time, probably
Seemed
because
like it
of the
was pretty
small,
quick,
yeah. But it's about the same right now. We're about where we was last year though, believe it or not. We've had great weather too, you know, the guys can't hardly do anything, can't really suck in that wet, it just holds right there. But I think that's what's probably kept us right on track, thank God for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. McAbeer. Move on, Safety Director, Mr. Popham.
Thank you, Mr. President, no report this evening.
All right, move on to Auditor, Mrs. Gundy.
I have no report, thank you.
All right, move on to the Treasury Report, Mr. Gerber.
No report, sir.
All right, move on to the Law Director, Mr. Fate.
I just want to add on some comments that I touched on earlier. Dee Grossman has informed me that it looks like the state legislature will be passing out some legislation here fairly soon, within the next 13 weeks, that deals with Airbnbs and short-term rentals, and give us all some guidance on what to do in that regard. So I'm hopeful that that occurs, and that will obviously guide what I do with regards to the city of New Philadelphia and how we handle those issues.
Any questions for the Law Director? Now we move on to our Board Commission reports. Planning Commission, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Commission will meet here in Council Chambers at 1 PM on Tuesday, the 21st. We've got, we're gonna be looking at possibly rezoning some city-owned land on Commercial Avenue. And then after that, Commercial Avenue Southeast. Then after that, Wendy Moeller will be back to give us another update. We'll have another work session on the zoning and planning code revisions. I encourage everyone to attend if you can.
All right, move on to Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to start with, did everybody like what had got sent out? They want to do it electronically. I know I got some feedback from Cheryl, she liked it. Remember they talked about every email and that type of thing, everybody okay? Okay. The Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow.
here in council chambers at 5 PM with 3 variance requests to be heard at that time.
Any questions for Mr. McAbeer? All right, move on to Airport Commission, Mr. Lonzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Commission will be meeting here tomorrow night at 6 PM in council chambers.
All right, move on to Park Board, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right, move on to the Health Board, Mr. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry I was distracted here momentarily. That's easy to do at my age. The Health Board information, the tire drop-off that we've been working on for quite some time. In October, it increased, and we are now at nearly 1,300 tires that have been dropped off at the, I guess, Mr.
General
McAdoo,
services.
the General Services.
Yes, sir.
Department. The flu and COVID vaccines are now readily available at the City Health Department. We had 56 cases of COVID that were reported in October, and that's perhaps 1/3 of what actually was encountered in the city. But it was more than 20 cases that occurred in September. The accreditation board that the health department's been working with had a virtual meeting with the health department this past Monday. And the next visit is a site meeting with the health department and involves the community, and that occurs on November the 30th. We're working toward health department accreditation. I'll be passing out the accreditation site visit information to council members will be placed in your box this coming week. And Russo's Pizza, which is connected with Lee's Chicken, will be moving into the pizza building that's directly across from the high school. That should be occurring within the next month. And that concludes my report this evening.
Any questions for Mr. Holland? All right, thank you. We'll move on to our council committee reports. Finance, Mr. Rickley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee met this evening at 6:15 with 2 items to discuss. Ordinance 27, 2023, and a memorandum that was handed out by the auditor. After passing and amending, we have added the memorandum to ordinance 2027, 23 for the agenda, and the auditor asked if we could suspend rules and pass on first reading. It was unanimously moved forward to the full council body, 3-0. My meeting was agended at 6:25 PM. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rickley. Move on to Public Works and Economic Development, Mr. Lonzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Works and Economic Development Committee met this evening at 7:05 PM. We discussed Resolution 19, which is an airport grant application, and we voted unanimously out of committee to add to tonight's agenda for first reading. And then we just had some just open dialogue about one of the assignments that's in my committee with the rental registration. And basically, we got some things to help from committee members. We got some more information for everybody to dig into and study before the next meeting, next time we have a meeting about it. And then we adjourned at 7:22.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lonzer. Move on to Safety, Health, and Service, Mr. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. President. No formal report this evening.
All right. Zone annexation, Cheryl's not here tonight. Salary, Mrs. May.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Salary Committee met this evening at 6:30, and we were discussing at length again the proposed non-bargaining salary increases, and the meeting adjourned this evening at 7:13. That's the end of my report.
All right, thank you, Mrs. May. All right, Cemetery Board, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right, Special Contact, Mr. Ribbeth.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report tonight. I will be scheduling a meeting, but I'll get that notice out as soon as I've got a date.
All right. All right, the floor is now open for visitors' comments. Anyone wishing to address council should rise, state their name and address, and address all comments to the chair. You are given 5 minutes.
I'll need 4.5, sir.
Then would you go back to the podium then, Dee, and thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Kreinbill, congratulations on your win. You don't need a timer for me. I'm here tonight. I'm Dee Grossman. I'm the Executive Director of the Tuscarawas County Convention and Visitors Bureau. It is located at 124 East High. I'm here tonight to give you an update on our Travel Tusk ticket program. How many of you in the room were actually able to use those tickets this year, or a family member? Excellent. In past years, we did this program in 2018, 19, and 20. We did not do it in 21 and 22 because of the pandemic. We averaged about $8,000 to $12,000 in reimbursements to our travel partners. This year, you can see that we have exceeded that by $79,000. We reimbursed our partners for the full ticket price of their tickets, and we paid them $79,000. New Philadelphia leads the way. We've reimbursed our partners in New Philadelphia for $43,501. The next highest then, of course, is Dover, followed by Sugar Creek, Bolivar and Zor, and then Denison at the end. You have in front of you a breakdown of those tickets by month and by attraction, and then a total for those months. We also had returned to us 6,800 tickets. That's 6,800 tickets totally. We've always averaged between 1,500 and 2,000. So we want to thank, first of all, the county commissioners who did approve the ARPA grant that helped to pay for this. That was $60,000. Our board of directors then felt that this program was so beneficial and so important that they earmarked the remaining money out of our marketing budget. So $79,000, that's amazing, don't you think? I don't know what we're going to do next year, which is a secondary reason why I'm here to speak to you tonight. I would like to ask that you consider sponsoring the New Philadelphia attractions out of the line item for lodging tax revenue. Those monies are collected at New Philadelphia City Hotels, and it is collected from the visitors, and the original intent of those monies is to go back into visitor services. So I respectfully request that you earmark some of that money, upwards of $45,000 out of next year's budget, to help pay for the tickets for the New Philadelphia properties. How did I do there, Chris? Thank you. Any questions? I also would be remiss if I didn't remind you that I stand at the ready to discuss Airbnb issues within the county and within the state. We have a meeting in Columbus on Friday to discuss this very issue. So, Mr. Fate, if you don't mind, I'll send you an email with some information as soon as we get it.
I would really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's a big problem. It's a big nightmare right now, seriously. And I'm not talking about the collection of the lodging taxes. I'm talking about the safety of our visitors. I was mentioning to one of the council members that I had a call today from someone from the Stone Creek, Jefferson Township. There was a house there that had so much black mold that the family had to move out of it. So they decided to turn it into an Airbnb. I'll just let that there for you. Any questions on the Travel Tusk tickets? Yes, sir.
Other than just thank you for all the work you do on that. And
Well,
bringing the light to
and the
forward.
ARPA committee will be in 3 weeks to audit my books for that, and that's okay too. Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna have some more committee meetings on the Airbnbs.
Oh, yeah, she's already number one on my list. of
Thank you.
interests here for-
Yeah. And if you don't want to go the full 45,000, let me know. And, we've done these tickets, again, starting in 18. We only paid some of our partners $1 or $5, but then we also limited it to just Tuscarawas County. That's not very good economic impact for our hotels, which is where those lodging taxes are coming from. This year, we opened it up to anybody. Tuscarawas County, surrounding counties, the state of Ohio, we had some folks from Taiwan that used these, and they were definitely staying at our area hotels. So, anything else?
All right, thank you, Dee.
Oh, thank you.
Council comments, any council members? Mr. Ricklick?
I just want to mention the Veterans Day program in the square. thank everybody that came out. I think it's a great honor that we can honor our fallen veterans, and our standing veterans are still, veterans are from the Second World War are almost but all gone. We did honor a Congressional National Honor individual, is the last Ohio Congressional National Honor Medal Award, just passed away in October. We did honor them at that ceremony. It was a good thing. The family from Yorksville, which my wife did not know, they were in Yorksville when she had been in contact with this gentleman. Her and the gentleman had corresponded for years back and forth. Matter of fact, he sent her a children's book that wanted my wife's opinion on that children's book to see what she thought of it. And what the book was really was his view of fighting in the Korean War and what that did to the youth of America. He fell on a grenade in his foxhole to save his two comrades. He survived. He was severely injured, but he was a different kind of individual. But definitely war has an effect on all people, not just the ones that are there, their families. And I hope everybody keeps those people in their prayers and thoughts.
Here, here.
And as a nation, if we can get ourselves back together, that we can always agree to disagree, but do the best we can for everyone. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. So we do. We want to thank all the veterans. Thank you for your service. It's greatly appreciated. All right, move into our legislative agenda.
Ordinance number 19, 2023, an ordinance by the Council of the City of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to amend ordinance 1141.05 with regards to the definition of recreational vehicles to include all trailers and declaring an emergency, third reading.
Is there any action taken by council members?
Mr. President, I would move that we pass Resolution 19, 2023 today.
Mr. Ricklick,
I'll second that.
all right. All right, any discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
All right, resolution 19, 2023 has passed.
Ordinance number 21, 2023, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with the Tuscarawas County Public Defender's Office for the provision of legal representation for indigents charged with violations of New Philadelphia city ordinances in the municipal court where such offenses carry a possible loss of liberty, establishing compensation and terms thereof, and declaring an emergency, third reading.
Is there any action taken by council on this legislation? Mr.
Me again,
Rippon.
Mr. President, I would rise to ask that we pass 21, 2023 this
Do I
evening.
have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Alonso, thank you. Any discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 21, 2023 has passed.
Ordinance number 25, 2023, an ordinance by the Council of the City of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to enact salary rate increases for designated non-bargaining unit employees and elected officials for 2024 in accordance with the attached non-bargaining worksheet as listed therein and subjected to the terms and conditions listed therein, and declaring an emergency, first reading.
All right, any action be taken by council on this legislation tonight? Here then be held for the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Ordinance number 26, 2023, an ordinance to make temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of New Philadelphia, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency, first reading.
All right, any action be taken by council on this legislation tonight? Mr. Ricklick,
Mr. President, I ask we suspend the rules for ordinance 26, 2023.
do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you. Discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
All right, rules have been suspended. Mr. Ricklick,
I make a motion to pass ordinance 26, 2023, after I hand out a attachment to it.
All right.
I've been out of town, like I said, until I got back this afternoon. Unfortunately, the law director's son has been sick. In his preparation of the ordinance, he attached a earlier version of the spreadsheet, so I want to pass it out so everybody has what is being attached.
All right, thanks.
The law director has reviewed the video of the finance committee meeting. You have
Two sheets, yeah.
to verify that everything that is added on this is as stated. Do you need one, Mr. Buckman? Okay, you need one? Did everybody get one?
Yes.
Okay. With us, I ask that we pass ordinance 26, 2023 as presented.
I just want to address a couple of things.
Yes, Mr. Bate.
I just want to address a couple of things on that. For future reference, I know we're going to have new council members coming on. My preference is to have these things in black and white in the committee before it's voted on. I know that when I'm sitting here and we're discussing the budget, I pay attention to the part that involves my budget that I present to council that I'm required to statutorily. I don't pay attention to what size pipe we're using in the ground to transport my toilet and drinking water. I don't pay attention to those things. But my preference would be that we do that. I know that it is discussed on the recording, the 50,000 for Field 1. That is discussed. It's not clear that that's being added to the agenda. My preference would have been to have that voted on to be added to this sheet rather than doing it after the fact. Because there were some concerns about it that came up, and I wasn't even aware that it was passed out until I went back and listened to the fact that it was discussed. Because like I said, the sheet that went out was not the sheet that had it in there. And when it's brought up, it says in there that this was not in there, that this was discussed last year and was gonna be on there. And I wanna make sure that everybody, before they vote on this, is on the same page, that is an addition that's in there that was not in the legislation that was passed out by me, and was not in what was originally considered by the committee. It was discussed during the committee meeting, but it was pointed out during the committee meeting that this was not something that this was something that was done last year, and nobody raised any objections to it being in there. So that was a concern that I had about it.
Yes,
To add to that, all the capital improvements that were discussed previous year, which I spoke with the service director during that meeting, we talked about the restrooms, the 880,000, but you said you already had that handled. We discussed the roof on the office and swimming pool was added, also that was not on anything handed out earlier. And so was the resurfacing of the tennis courts. Those are all additional letters that the mayor had sent me that I added during my meeting. I read them off during that meeting, that they were capital improvements out of the fund 437, 77,000-5-5204. So there was that, and the mayor also made the adjustment on the pickup trucks from 165,000 to 16,500.
16.5.
Yes. Those were all changed, and then I requested from the mayor editing rights. I changed them, and I forward that. Unfortunately, I'm not real good on the computer, and as you see, that I printed them out in initial, and I delivered them to Marvin on 10/31. So, but unfortunately, his son became ill. We didn't have time to talk back and forth, and that's why I'm doing it this way. Thank you.
The only thing, I don't know if it's my turn or not.
Mr. McAfee.
The only thing I don't see, Beth, remember we talked about the 50,000 for the Al Maloney restroom? I don't see that here. Should we need to do something with that?
Oh, you said,
On the page that Kelly just handed out,
Right.
well, it's already in the budget.
If you already had it in the budget, Ron, is what you told me, and she.
What's
agreed.
that?
You-
No,
She
I-
already had it in your regular budget, your temporary. She didn't have it on here, she had it in temporary, and she verified, because you were waiting for some, you can hear you say that you were waiting for some quotes to come back, to see where you stood.
So, no, I'm not questioning anything, I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure that I've got 50,000. I don't care
I thought
about,
you did.
if you got $4 in there for a Coke, I wanna know that
I think she said-
50,000's in there for my
But I
restroom.
remember that being
Yeah,
discussed.
It's in
again,
there.
alls I wanna know is if 50,000's in there, they're gonna get this restroom done next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's all, that's
All right,
perfect.
any more discussion?
I guess one more question.
Yes,
Okay, so on the Field One project, who added that?
The mayor and I spoke last year, and he'd do it in 2 phases, one this year and next year, and we're going to be going to the school to ask them to participate in the same dollar fund of this year.
So 100,000?
50/50. So we're
Okay.
gonna ask them, we're gonna show them that the school, city did their portion, now we're gonna ask them to put them in their budget.
Okay. Is it something, and I don't know this, is it something that you as an individual should be voting on?
Whether I
When you're
vote or
the
not,
head of
it's
the
still a
project?
city, it's still a city. field.
understand
I'm not
that.
benefiting from it. I don't
No,
benefit.
no, I'm not
from it.
saying you
Yeah.
are, but you're the leader of like getting the funds. What do we get for
Correct.
$100,000?
What are you getting for 100,000? You got part of the scoreboard, and you're getting the backstop, part of this backstop portion to be added to the other 100,000 we have in the Park Foundation. I don't have any, it's all going to the Park Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Park Foundation is doing it.
And then, I think you told Cheryl, Councilman Ramos one time that we needed this to start getting some money back for the city of Philly.
We will get money back. We are going to do,
None of it will actually really come to the city of New Philly though, correct?
I don't understand what
I don't know,
you're
you'd have to go back and read I remember the minutes, she said, what do we get out of this? You said, we gotta get this up because it ends up, the city of Philly getting recouping some of our money.
We're trying to bring tournaments in to raise money, and we're gonna advertise on the scoreboard to raise money. And
But
that money
nothing for
will
the
be
city of
used-
New Philadelphia. They're not gonna reach anything off the score.
New Philadelphia, yeah, the Park Foundation will. They'll gain the money from it.
The Park Foundation?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that was spoke at the foundation meeting just last Friday. The field maintenance will come out of it, and the excess will go to the Park Foundation, to other projects within the foundation.
Okay.
It's all for the city. It's nothing for Kelly Ripick's pocket.
No,
or anybody else's.
wait now, wait.
No, I'm just saying it's not. It's all Park Foundation, as long as they keep representing us. If not, there'll be another foundation or 501c3 that governs it the money goes to the city. The money will never go to individuals, as long as I'm part of the fundraising. None.
Again, that's not what that's
Okay,
not where I
that's
was
fine.
going with it. I just
Yeah.
was just
The
asking.
farm house, that's.
No, I never said that at all, but.
I know you
thank
didn't. I just want to make, I added that to it, Ronnie.
all right. We've got a motion on the floor, and I need a second.
If there are concerns about that, that anybody has an interest in that, that can be removed and voted on separately, but that's entirely up to council if they want to do that.
All right, well, we've got a motion on the floor, I need a second to approve it as is.
Yeah.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
recuse myself from voting.
Nobody else wants to?
I'll do
Second.
that. I'll recuse myself.
Can
You
he
may be
recuse it?
fine.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I'm not approving it.
So then I need a motion to approve 2023.
So moved.
Well,
I need a
point of
second.
order, Mr. President. This
Yes.
is the first reading, correct?
And we suspended the rules.
Did you suspend the rules?
Yeah.
I must have missed
Yeah, we already
that.
suspended. Yeah.
Sorry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Ripper, thank you. Now, in discussion from the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Mr. Ribbit?
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
yes.
Mr. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Rickles?
I recuse myself from this.
So we got
Let me see.
4, 2 yes votes.
We got 5.
Okay, that's passed. Orders 26, 2023 have passed.
So it was 5.
Ordinance number 27, 2023, an ordinance by the Council of the City of New Philadelphia, Ohio, amending and adjusting the permanent appropriations ordinance for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency, first reading.
Is there any action to be taken by council on this tonight? Mr. Urquhart,
Mr. President, I ask we suspend the rules for ordinance 27, 2023 for this evening.
do I have a second?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Is that the one with salaries?
Appropriations.
It's adjustment appropriation for 2023.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Ripper, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Rippet.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
All right, 27, 2023 has passed.
No,
No.
we suspended the rules there.
Suspended rules.
No.
I'll get mine now. So the rule has been suspended. Mr. Ricklick.
Mr. President, I ask that we pass ordinance 27, 2023.
All right, do I have a second? Mr.
Second.
Ripper, thank you. In discussion by the community, administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Rippet.
Yes.
Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Mr. Lonzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
All right, now 27, 2023 has passed.
Resolution number 19, 2023, a resolution by the Council of the City of New Philadelphia, Tuscarawas County, Ohio, authorizing and directing the mayor of the City of New Philadelphia to act as the signature designee and to submit a grant application to the Ohio Department of Transportation, Office of Aviation, in the amount of $144,606 for the parallel taxiway, a relocation project. And once the grant offer is received from the Ohio Department of Transportation, Office of Aviation, further authorizing the mayor to accept and execute the grant contract and all related documents and to manage the grant as necessary, inclusive of submission of application for payment associated with the grant as required by the Ohio Department of Transportation, Office of Aviation, and declaring an emergency, first reading.
Would you like to read that again?
No.
Is there any action been taken by council on this station tonight? Hearing none, be held over for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
And that concludes legislation for this evening, Mr.
All right,
President.
thank you. Any unfinished road business? I guess, Mr. Cranby, I missed you back in council comments. Did you have some comments you wanted to make?
I did, actually.
If you want to come over to the, so I apologize for not recognizing you doing it.
It's okay, no problem. I just wanted to, well, Chris Cranbill, 643 PGA Boulevard, New Philadelphia. I just wanted to address salary committee, especially Dean and Kelly, who I have a great relationship with and great respect for. Anytime you're dealing with people's money, it's probably the toughest conversation you're gonna have. You know, I've worked at the same organization for 21 and a half years. Toughest conversations I've had with my bosses have been about money and paying. And I just want to say how much I respect you guys for trying to work to get something done before the end of the year, because it would put the three of us in a really, really tougher spot, because we're instantly in it, trying to figure this out and go. So Kelly and Dean, Amy, I'm sorry, I don't know you as well, but Kelly and Dean, I know you guys are about this far apart on this thing. That's as far as I can go. But I 100% respect Kelly, 100% respect Dean, and I know in their hearts, they're doing what they feel is best. And I will always respect that, and thank you guys for trying to do something to not put it on the three of us. I know you guys may not agree, but it is definitely noticed by me that you guys are trying to do something to help us out and help out all of our non-bargaining employees. So I just wanted to say thank you for guys for trying to work together to get something through.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Chris. All right, any new business tonight? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I think it's time to go.
That's all I gotta say.
8:14, we adjourn. Thanks, everybody.